PEDO, one of the most popular specialties that dentists are going into right now. It is a population-focused specialty with a lot of rewards, but you're going to be rewarded today as we talk to a D4 student that just matched into PEDO. Stay tuned. Hey, this is Dr. Darwin, a new dentist coach, with another episode of Ask Dr. Darwin on the New Dentist Podcast Show, where we talk about getting into dental school, surviving dental school, getting into residency, surviving residency, and then life after as a new dentist, right? Guys, make sure that you are staying in tune with the channel. Please be sure to like, to share, and especially comment. Very important, and subscribe, but the comments are very important so that we continue to develop this content that's more specific to what you're looking for as well. Also, this episode of Ask Dr. Darwin is being brought to you by GetIntoDentalResidency.com. Can you see that? GetIntoDentalResidency.com. Make sure that you check out, go to the website and check out how you can receive some help, some one-on-one help in being able to match into your number one program right now, this cycle. For more details, go down below and check it out, okay? So today we got a special guest. She's been on the podcast before as one of the trio of the Occlusal Table podcast, but now she's on solo right now. She's solo, and she's going to share her solo success as she just matched into her top program in pediatric dentistry. Today we're joined with student Dr. Taylor Jackson. And how you doing?
Hello, Dr. Darwin. Thank you for having me again. Again, my name is Taylor Jackson. I'm a fourth-year dental student at Meharry Medical College, and I am so happy to be here.
Yeah, well, we're happy to finally track you down because I know you're busy this time in the year. How many days left with school? How many days left to graduation?
I know it's less than 100.
Yeah.
Like 2 months and 9 days.
Yeah, there you go. Well, wait until it's about 30 days. You'll know 30 days, how many hours, how many minutes, and how many seconds.
Absolutely.
It'll get down. So as part of that countdown is getting ready to go to your PEDO residency program as well. So congrats with that. But let's start off these questions because people want to know. So question number one, first thing is, why PEDO? Why not endo? Why not perio? Why not oral surgery? Why not ortho? Right? Why did you select PEDO?
So growing up, I've always gravitated towards working with kids. I think that that's probably the eldest sibling in me, always wanting to inspire others with mentorship. And I actually didn't think that I wanted to go into pediatrics. I've known I wanted to be a dentist ever since I was a toddler because I just enjoyed going genuinely. And my friends thought I was crazy because of that. But throughout high school, college, I shadowed a whole bunch of different specialties. But I think that there just wasn't a specific spark with me just yet. And I was like, no, I don't think I want to work with kids. I'm like, no, not at all, even though I was great with kids. But it wasn't until my nephew was born after my first year of dental school. And I was like, oh, he's so cute. Maybe I can be a pediatric dentist. So I went ahead and I shadowed a pediatric dentist because there's no harm in shadowing, right? And I loved it. The way she had to manipulate different treatment plans because of the child's age and focusing on growth and development and the education aspect for the parents and for the children, how it was like a light switch turning it on and off. I was like, I can really picture myself in her shoes. And with doing that and doing different community service outreach programs that we do have at Meharry, working with juvenile detention centers and those in foster homes, I loved every minute of it, talking with the patients and educating them on the importance of oral health.
Yeah, and that's a key point. Having those experiences that influence, just like many of us have it, were influenced to go into dentistry through an experience, whether it was a family member or your own dentist or an experience from a high school program or junior high or middle school program, all of those experiences really are impactful
Yeah.
completely. So that's great. That's great. Let's talk about your application, because this is the part that really takes, it's a 4-year process. People don't realize it.
Oh
Uh
yeah.
people don't realize it's especially for specialties, and more specifically for pedo, for endo, for, well, actually for all of them. That process really starts much early on. So let's hear from you about your process and how you prepared for the application.
Right. So I'm always in leadership. My classmates can tell you that. Definitely from the beginning, like what you were saying, with being starting getting involved your first year for sure, and having a good GPA. I will say that GPA, it does matter, but it's not everything in the world of pediatrics, because they do want a well-rounded applicant and individual. But if you have a 4.0 GPA but no community service experience and no leadership, then they want to know the substance behind who you are, and that does having a 4.0 GPA doesn't tell them much on paper. So I will say from third year though was when I really started putting my entire packet together. I talked with the seniors that were going through the actual application process and interview process, getting some of their tips and things like that, since everything was very fresh, since they were going through it. I even reached out to pediatric residents through Instagram and everything like that, social media, because they're more willing to be more open and honest when you're not the one in the application cycle. So that was definitely something that I really appreciated with talking with them, their honesty. And
Right.
also looking at YouTube videos like yours, Dr. Darwin. That's how I made some of those connections to residents, to my mentors that I still talk to today. So watching YouTube videos for sure, Dr. Darwin definitely helped out. He didn't even know it then, we haven't even met, but he definitely helped with those YouTube videos for sure.
I Yeah, and I tell you, today's generation of new dentists, you guys have so many resources at your disposal that we didn't have 20 years ago.
Yeah,
And just the importance of being able to connect and network. There's a phrase, your net worth depends on your network, or
absolutely.
your network of people that you know. So it's important. Well,
Definitely.
thanks for the shout out. Yeah, these videos help. These
They
episodes help.
do.
So you guys make sure that, again, like, share, and comment, and pass it along. Sharing is caring. Definitely, it does have an impact. Um, you had some more about your application. You were
I
saying
think,
talking
well,
to
really,
other residents as well.
absolutely. And I think just the last things, in that fall semester of my D3 year, that's when I was starting my personal statement. I was thinking about reusing the one that I used for dental school, but I am a completely different person than I was when,
Absolutely.
and my outlook on dentistry is completely different.
Your
Uh,
mindset, your experiences,
Absolutely.
your look, right? You may not have had those glasses 4
Right.
years ago, shucks.
Right.
But yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
That statement, that personal statement is different because you are different as a person,
Definitely,
right?
definitely. So at first I was trying to tweak it, but I'm like, I am not this same
Not
person.
this,
My
right?
outlook is completely different. And I trashed that whole thing,
Yep. Yep.
started new, looked at my blank piece of paper, like, okay, Taylor, who are you? Why dentistry?
Right.
Why pediatrics?
Right.
Some of those same questions, because, and I think another piece of advice is when starting my personal statement, was what's something that I can achieve as a pediatric dentist that I cannot achieve as a general dentist? Because if you say, oh, I want
Mm.
to work with kids, you can do that as a general dentist. Or if you say, oh, I want to help educate people, you can do that as a general dentist. So what is that separation? If you want to pursue a specific specialty, what can you do as a specialist versus being a general dentist? So I think that was where I
Ooh.
really had to start. That was a piece of advice from someone else that they gave to me, and
Ooh.
that one was deep for me.
Yeah, that's a deep one. That's a deep
Yeah.
one because you're absolutely right. There are a lot of general dentists that do pedo, a lot of
Hmm.
GPs that do endo, that do ortho,
Yep.
do extractions, place implants, do their own
Yep.
surgeries. Um, but what is something that's going to make me unique as a pediatric dentist that I can do as a board certified pediatric dentist that I
Absolutely.
can't do as a GP?
Yep. That's
Well,
right.
I think we know why you got 8 interviews now, and we'll go to that
Right.
in a minute. We'll go to that. But before the interviews, you gotta find the schools. You gotta select your school. You gotta research your schools, right? So
Right.
share with us that process, the number of schools that you applied to and why.
Right. So I applied to 17 schools. I feel like the sweet spot is between 15 and 20, only because pedo is very, very competitive, very competitive. And I think some people underestimate that, especially if you don't think that you're a competitive applicant. So if your GPA is below a 3.5 or 3.3, then you would probably want to apply to more schools. Or if you know that you have, a lot of leadership, a lot of community service, and you're in between that 3.3 and 3.5 range, then you're in a pretty good spot to maybe apply to 15 to 20 schools. So I will say also apply to a mixture of hospital-based, didactic-based, and combined, because from some of the track record that I've seen with not only me, but with some of my classmates, the more academic or combined programs are more willing to offer interviews to those that are still in school versus the hospital program. So I got way more interviews from combined and academic versus hospital based. So that's definitely a big piece of advice too.
Oh man, it's early. You guys that are listening, I mean, we're not live, but it's early in the morning, and Doc is spitting out some good pearls here. Some good pearls
Thank you.
early in this morning. So if you didn't catch that, go back, listen, rewind, because the mixture of schools is key because there are so many programs, like you said, school based,
Hmm.
hospital based, and then there are even now some that are community center based, right?
Yep.
Like almost like a lookalike of a federally qualified FQHC, federally qualified health center. There's some programs within those types of institution as well.
Right.
So 17 programs,
Hmm.
and were one of the factors dependent on location, or you were like, hey, I don't care where I go. I go to Hawaii, I can go to Maine, I'll go to Florida, Cali. Let me look at these programs and base it off of that.
So I knew I really wanted to go to a program that had a master's degree incorporated
Mhm.
into their program for
Okay.
sure.
Yep.
So that was a really big piece for me. And location was somewhat of a factor. And I say that because at first I wasn't considering going to the Midwest. I'm like, that's too cold. All my family is, all in the Southeast. So, and I'm in Nashville right now. So this is as far north as I've lived. And, it's snowing outside right now. And I'm used to just staying inside.
Right.
So,
Right.
so that's why with me going to Chicago, that is something that is way out of my comfort zone with regards to weather. But I looked at the program for what it was, and it was me talking to my mentor, and she was saying, well, if you're not married, you don't have any kids, no other obligations, why are you letting location stop you from applying to your dream program? And I think that was one of the big things because I mean, it's 3 years. It's 3 years. I can live in a new city, experience something different. And if that's something where I don't even know if that's where I would want to stay
Yeah.
after I finish my program. So you never know. I didn't even know that I would be in Nashville for 10 years from
Right.
undergrad, my master's degree in dental school, and I've loved it here.
And
So
you won't know, and you'll never know unless you open yourself up to that opportunity, right?
Absolutely.
because, like you said, it's only a short period of time in relation to your overall professional career.
Absolutely.
And I don't know
Absolutely.
about you, but lately well, maybe not as a dental student, it doesn't seem like it, but lately it seems like time is flying.
It is.
And those 3 years, especially with in a pedo program where you're constantly busy, those 3 years, Doc, will go by very, very, very fast. And you'll look up and it's like, you get ready to take your boards for board certification exam. So
Yeah.
it does go by really fast. All right, so we got programs. We understand why. We got the little methodology, some tips with regards to programs. Let's talk about the interviews. Like I said, 17 programs. You got 8 interviews, which is phenomenal. With
It
the
was a
number of,
blessing.
it was a blessing. Tooth Fairy was like, "Yeah, we like her. Let's talk to her some more." The pedo Tooth Fairy said, "Yeah." So let's talk about the interviews because that's what can make people get on pins and needles. It's like, all right, got these
Yeah.
interviews, great. Not only do I have a couple of them, I got 8 of them.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the interviews. What were some of the things that were common in the interviews? Any questions that stood out? Because I have a list of them already that I've heard that are
Yeah.
probably a little bit more unique to pedo than they are
Yeah.
to some other programs. So tell us about the interview day and the process and the questions that you had.
Yeah. So all of my interviews were actually virtual. So I had no in-person interviews. So that definitely saved on cost. But I think that it took away from the actual overall experience of being at that school and visiting. But because I talked with a lot of the residents and have researched the school and things like that, that really helped with framing my overall decision when it came to ranking and everything like that. But with that interview day, I dressed from head to toe uh, in my suit. I made sure I had my AirPods ready because, even with like this distance here, at first I just had my regular computer speaker, but it was hard for people to hear me. And that was the very first person who was asking me questions said, "Hey, do you have AirPods or any type of headphones? Because, I love what you're saying, but I really want to grasp everything that you're saying too." So that was something too for interview day. But for the questions, definitely know your Disney characters and Disney princesses. I was asked that threw me off guard after some of the typical questions like, tell me about yourself, why pedo, why this school, and then they throw in there, name 5 Disney princesses. So it kind of just catches you off guard.
Right. I don't have time. Look, I don't have time to be looking at no Disney films right
Right.
now. What do you mean, Disney? What?
So,
I've been to Disney World, but I wasn't talking to the characters. I don't remember.
right.
Right, right.
So, or even what was the last moment that made you laugh? Or
Mm-hmm.
questions that um, not only pertain to your experiences at school, but what's something outside of dentistry that inspired you to want to go into pediatrics? That was another question. Um, and I think having stories with some of these questions definitely is key because that's what makes you memorable.
Yep.
So if they say, "Oh, what are your favorite leadership qualities?" Then you can say, "Okay, I have used these leadership qualities in this specific example of leadership, and this is what makes me a great leader." So when you have stories, people will remember that. And that's the key through these interviews is to make yourself memorable, especially in a virtual platform setting.
Yeah, and that can be tough if you're not used to that type of format, but also not used to understanding the psychology of those that are interviewing you and
Yep.
what they're looking for in candidates, right? They want candidates that again can be part of the program that's a good fit in the program because and every program is different. Every program is different because every resident is different. You got residents
Right.
that have trained both internationally, different parts of the country at different time frames, 10 years out, 5 years out, 5 months out. So, all of that is key um to understand. And for those of you that want to get some additional help in preparing like mock interview types of questions that Dr. Taylor just mentioned, uh, check this out right up here. You can, as a resource for you, that'll help get into dentalresidency.com as well, where we do some of those mock interview questions so that you're not, stoic like this when the question comes and you're like,
Oh yeah.
because they will see that on the screen, right? Right, Doc?
Oh yeah.
Oh, they'll
They
see you
sure
like,
will.
they'll see you thinking like, and you don't want that. You want to be able to respond on the go, right? Because things are
Absolutely.
going to happen. We already know. Things happen in dentistry on the go, right? A handpiece stops,
Yep.
the bird breaks,
Yep.
something on a rubber dam happens, and then with kids, you know what they doing. They having their own
Everything can go
party. They
haywire.
just
Yeah,
moving, right?
everything.
They just moving. What's
Everything.
this? What's that? What's that? I don't like that. And it's
Oh
like
yeah.
boom. Before you know it, you have to really know how to respond in in a short period of time. So practicing your questions, practicing your thought process,
Hmm.
all that is some of the things that we do in that training.
Yeah.
So check that out as well. So
I will say something
yeah,
else, Dr. Darwin. When it
yeah,
comes to interviewing, I think something that really helped me as well is that I broke up my questions into specific sections. So I had like a section that was all about, asking about myself. I had another section that was asking all about leadership, another section about community service, and others about like public health, pediatrics, so that even if an interviewer threw out a question that I quote unquote did not prepare for, I can always kind of in my brain reach out to like that section, like, okay, they asked something about research. Okay, I can talk about this point. Or hey, they talked about, what are some good qualities in a friend or something like that. And I can talk about this point. So I think that was
yeah,
organizing my responses that way
yep,
really helped. Even, so I sometimes questions that catch me off guard, but I would take a second and just exhale a little bit and
yeah.
then just go right
And
directed to that
and that's
area.
and that's all about you preparing yourself for the day, right? So
Absolutely.
that you can visually go into that compartment about your experience in leadership, community service, uh, 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 ideas, research
Hmm.
project that you may have or
Absolutely.
that you're thinking about that you want to pursue as a pedo. All those being able to divide it, like you said, it's all part of the preparation, right?
Yep.
Because it's coming. You just don't know who and when who's going to ask you that question, but you have to be prepared because that's all about making yourself unique and presenting yourself as a well-rounded person as well. Right? I mean, they
Absolutely.
already like you. They're
Right.
they already are interested in you.
Right.
Now you have to convince them why should we put you down on our rank list as one of
Absolutely.
our our top number ones. That's your job as a candidate.
Right.
So you have to. So once you understand that and you frame your mindset as with some of these things, then you know how to prepare a little bit easier, and it helps.
Absolutely.
And it helps. So we talked about the program's rank list. We as candidates have a rank list too.
Oh
So
yes.
with 8 interviews, I already know. You know, I'm glad it wasn't me because I probably would have lost some of this hair trying to trying to figure out how am I going to rank these 8 programs that
Yep.
I had interviews in, and I know that those 8 programs before you went into your interviews, you had them kind of ranked. But
Mm,
then what
a little.
happens when you do the interviews, some of the programs switch
They do.
positions, right?
They
Oh
do.
yeah, I
Yeah.
know. Been there, done that. So 8 may become 5, 5 may become 2, 1 may
Hmm.
become 8, 2 may become 3. It all
Yep.
it may all change. So tell us a little bit about how you put together your rank list after your interviews and what factors that you learned from the interviews that help you design your rank list, and what those factors were?
Yeah. So I think something that's also really important after those interviews, I wrote down my true feelings and reservations about each school, because interviews started from September all the way to December. And with everything else going on, you can mix up schools. So writing down all my notes right after the interview of how I felt, like how the residents interacted or how the faculty interacted with the residents, writing down all of those factors right after the interview so that before the rank list submission date, I was reviewing those like, oh yeah, they did do that, or they did do that, or this school didn't do that. That was one thing. Also, being applying to pediatrics, I really do appreciate the fact that it is population focused versus procedure focused. And because of that, I wanted a program that built the total clinician, whether that's areas in public health, different exposures, whether it comes to children with cancer or children with different types of special needs. I wanted a program that touched in all of those areas so that any child that sat in my chair, I was very comfortable with after leaving the program. So if there were some programs that said, oh no, we don't have a lot of community service, or no, we don't do too many of these procedures, I rank those a little bit lower on my list. And something else that I did want is an additional master's degree, especially if it's free, because I do want to pursue academia. And if I can have another master's degree that can show the depth of my knowledge, especially when going into academia as a professor, then I was all for it. Being paid for sure. Yes. I didn't want to go into any more debt. I'm already going to be almost $500,000 in debt when I graduate dental school. So I did not want to add any more to that. And a program that was strong in advocacy and leadership, because that is something about pediatrics that I am passionate about as well.
Yeah, all of those are great, are great reasons for, or guidelines for your rank list. Completely. Absolutely. So, did you find that some of the programs did change going into the interview versus coming out of the interview?
A little bit.
A little bit. Okay. Okay.
I will say that the virtual externships, and I did one in-person externship, and that's at my number one, University of Illinois at Chicago, where I'm going to be going in a few months. So I did do an in-person externship there. And I think that really helped frame things before going into the interview.
Yep.
So that I knew what I was walking into, because there were some of my classmates that had to decline some interviews because of the conflicting schedules and dates and times. And thankfully, I didn't have to have that problem. But at least with some of those virtual externships, my classmates were like, I wasn't really feeling it during this virtual externship, so I'm okay with declining this one over this one. That's and key. Making that decision there. So virtual externships, any types of open houses that you can join on prior to the interview process, even before submitting the money. I will say, I wish I was able to join on some virtual externships before submitting my money, but any investment is still okay. So I'm at where I'm supposed to be.
Now, when you say prior to submitting your application, those open houses, do you mean prior to? So you mean prior to adding programs as one of your 17 to your list? Is that what you mean? Okay.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's part of your research. That's part of your research on the front end.
Right.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, because some programs didn't have a lot of information online.
Right.
And it was hard to find some of their residents as well. Still because they didn't show difficult. That. Still, and then and their open houses were after the time that I submitted my application for some programs. And I was like, I already submitted. So, I'm already knee deep in. So.
Yeah, knee deep. They got my money. They got my money. They got my money, so they better give me an interview. How about that?
And they did, and some did, yeah.
Yeah. Get ready to say, I need this interview now. I need y'all to come through.
Right.
So that's great. So just remind everyone where you're going to be taking your leadership and your exemplary leadership and your passion for PEDO. Where are you going to be taking your talents to?
I'm going to be going to the university in Illinois at Chicago.
Yeah.
My number one.
Number one. Congratulations, UIC.
Yes.
Downtown Chicago. I've been there several times. You're going to love it.
Thank you.
Beautiful area. And unfortunately, it's not Nashville though. You will have to buy some new coats and some lounge johns and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's going to be a huge adjustment for me.
That's all right. It's going to be well worth it. I got a couple of restaurants. I got a list of some restaurants to give you. So when you do have some downtime, you can enjoy yourself. But Chicago's a great city. Great city.
Absolutely.
That's great. What also would be great is understanding a little bit more about knowing what you know now. What would you do differently as part of sharing advice and tips for the D3s now that are getting ready to apply for PEDO, for those that have graduated that have done a GPR program or AGD program and they're getting ready to apply to PEDO? Give us like 4 or 5 tips of advice.
Yeah, definitely make your paper application stand out so that the readers of your application is more interested in you to offer an interview. So you kind of want to leave a little bit of mystery with you in a sense, and enough to grab the attention of that reader. For sure. So working on that paper application is super important. Don't just put things on paper because then they will be dismissed with all of the applicants that go across their desk. Apply early if you can. Apply early because even though some programs, they say, hey, we're not looking at any programs until after the submission deadline, you don't know the order in which they're going to be looking at those applications after that deadline. So if they're starting from, okay, who submitted it early up until the last person, you want to make sure you're in that top part of the file so that they're like, I really like this. Let me put this to the side to offer them an interview for sure. And use your network. At Meharry, there are so many different resources, at least for us, I can only speak on Meharry, where they can put us in contact with people from different schools, different programs. And from there, you can help build a better understanding of the different programs that you're applying for. And lastly, see which programs would prefer students to be right out of dental school versus to be working for a short amount of time. Because there were some programs that did deny some people because they were coming right out of school. So it's good to be aware of that before applying too.
Yeah, those are very important pieces of advice, especially the programs that want D4s or recent grads versus those that prefer grads to have 1 or 2 years experience.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, not all the programs will tell you which ones they will prefer. So that's why having a network like you guys have at Meharry, I'm very familiar with the PEDO Club and now the Ortho Club. Okay, so those were some great tips to live by, especially if you want to become a board certified pediatric dentist, which means you got to go and apply to a program and match into a program just like Taylor did. So hopefully this information has been great, helpful for everybody. Taylor, what's the best way for people to contact you if they have any questions?
Well, by email is fine. The minimalistdentist@gmail.com or on Instagram @minimalistdentist. and you can find me there. Any questions, I am definitely open to answering or for any mentorship.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate your time and really excited, very proud of you, watching your progression all these 4 years.
Thank you.
Really, really excited for you. You're going to do great things. May even become a PEDO program director one day, right?
Maybe. I
never know.
You never know.
Maybe you can come back to Meharry as they getting ready to launch their PEDO program as well.
Yeah, possibly so. Know. Never know.
Well, guys, we hope this episode's been helpful for you. Also, check out these videos here, and hopefully these videos are helpful for you as well. That's our time. Love, peace, and smiles. See you next week. See you on the next video. Next week.